Hi there, myself Madhav Jha. I welcome you to CodeChef and let's have a look at this question.
The problem is minimum distinct. The problem difficulty is easy and there are no prerequisites. Let's have a read at the problem. You are given an array of n integers and can perform the following operation at most k times. That is, we will choose two indices I and j in such a way that I is less than j. Now once we have our indices, what we'll do is we'll set the value of aj to ai. So we have the element ai and aj. Once we perform the operation, we will convert aj into ai. We need to find the minimum number of distinct elements that we can get after performing at most k such operations. Now for input format, we have t test cases, and for each test case, we have two lines. The first line contains the integer n, and the second line contains n integers. Those are a1, a2 till an. As for the output, in a single line, we just have to output the minimum number of distinct elements after performing at most k operations. As for the constraints, number of test cases will go from 1 to 10 raised to 4. Length of the array will go from 2 to 2 into 10 raised to 5. Value of k will go from 0 to n. And the value of elements will go from 1 to n. Let's see some sample inputs. So for the first sample input, we have 4 elements and we can perform 0 operations. It means there will be no change in our answer. The number of distinct elements that exist in the array currently will be our answer. And as we can see, there are 4 distinct elements, namely 1, 2, 3 and 4. Therefore, the answer is 4. But what happens if k is now increased to 2? So we have the array 1, 2, 3 and 4 and we can perform at most 2 operations. So let's try to do that. In the very first operation, let's choose I and j as 1 and 2. If we choose this is our I and this is our j because I has to be less than j. Then we'll change the element that is at j to the element that is at I. So this 2 will become 1. We can perform the similar operation for 1 and 3. Now the elements in our array are just 1 and 4. So in total we just have 2 distinct elements. Therefore 2 is the answer here. For the third sample input we have 3 elements and we can perform the operation once. Now again we'll do the same thing. We already have 2, but if you see we cannot convert 1 into 2 because to perform the operation we need to find the index that is less than the one that we're trying to change. But since this is the very first index, we don't have anything else. So we cannot change 1. With this, we have the same elements 1 and 2. Even after performing the operation, nothing will change. Therefore, the answer is still 2. So let's see how we can approach the solution. As we have seen in the third sample input, the very first element that we have, that is a1, we cannot change a1. We can only change other elements because the I that we select has to be less than equal to j. So what we can do is we can first create a frequency map. We will have all the elements and we'll have their frequency. Once we have this, we can do a reverse map. We can have a map of frequencies because we can only perform k operations. So the number of operations that we can perform are limited. So we will try to eliminate the elements that have the least frequency. So first we'll create a map that has element and its frequency. Then we'll create a reverse map so that we have frequency and elements. We will sort this frequency map and choose the elements that appears the least number of times and we'll try to perform the operations to decrease their count. We'll keep on doing this until we have exhausted k operations. Once this is done, whatever is the count of distinct elements left in the array is our answer. And with that, we'll get the solution. Let's see how we can implement the solution in C++. So for each test case, we call the function solve. In solve, we take the input of n and k. Once we have this, we take the input of our array. We store it into a map. So we have a frequency map of element and its frequency. So we'll keep a count of every element and the count of how many times it appears. Now once we have this, remember we don't need to count the very first element because we can never change it. So we will erase it from our map. Once we have done this, we'll create a reverse map. We'll create a map of frequencies and how many times that frequency appears. Now once we have this, what we will do is we'll target the smallest frequency that we have. Since map in C++ is naturally sorted in ascending order, we can simply go through it, where the very first that we go through will have the smallest frequency. Once we go through this, we will see if we are able to decrease this element or make this in such a manner that it is no more distinct. So if k is sufficient for that, we will do this and decrement the count of distinct elements. If we are not, we'll simply break out of this loop. To break this out means that we don't have enough operations to continue this. At the end, whatever is the count remaining of distinct elements is our solution or our result. And as you can see, I have AC in my C++ implementation. Let's see how we can do this in Python. Again, for each test case, we call the function solve, take the input of n, k, and our array. Then we form the very first map that is of elements and its frequency. We delete the very first element because we can never change it. Next up, we create a reverse map of frequencies and check how many times each frequency appears. Then we sort this because in Python it is not naturally in ascending order. Then we go through this frequency map and try to remove the smallest frequencies that we can. If we have a sufficient value of k, that is the number of operation, we do this, otherwise we break out of this loop. At the end, whatever is the distinct elements left, that is our result. And as you can see, I have AC in Python implementation as well. So I hope you understood the problem, the approach, and how we can implement the solution in both C++ and Python. Have a very good day, and I'll see you in the next video.